West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now, here's
7 a.m. in
Jeff
the Mile High City
and
on
Bill
this
Thorpe,
Monday,
the
June
Jeff and
16th,
Bill.
2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show. News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and Honda stakes from the right, left, and center. Colorado's blue, America's red. It all meets right here on the Jeff and Bill Show, where you're invited to be a part of the conversation. Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Or text us on the Dan Kaplis Law text line 720-819-5115. We're talking No Kings protest that took place on Saturday. A big success or kind of a dud when it comes to influencing people? My take, I generally just see the same people at these protests over and over again. I think most people on Saturday just shrugged as they went by, doing whatever else they wanted to do, take the kids to the games, go golfing, go swimming, whatever it might be. But standing on a street corner protesting Donald Trump 8 months after we had an election, claiming no kings. Well, okay, was he elected or not? How is he acting kingly if the people chose to put him in there? I think he's just responding to what the voters wanted. But anyways, let's get to the phone lines. Marcus, Denver, what did you think of these boomers on street corners on Saturday?
Yeah, what'd you think?
Well, I got to straighten this out. They try to put two generations as boomers. And I hate to say this, but from 1954 to 1965, that's my generation. Generation Jones. And you are our kids.
I've never heard of Generation Jones. Bill, have you heard of Generation Jones?
No.
Pop it up. We're the ones that started disco and everything else.
What makes them different than boomers? My parents are boomers, and their
It
parents
depends
came
on
from
what
World
year
War
they were
II.
born.
Yeah, I guess they were a little before 54.
So they'd be boomers.
Yeah.
That's weird. I've never heard
We're totally
of Jones
different.
as a demographic term before. I've
we're
heard it as a
Generation
descriptor, but not-
Jones.
Huh.
Remember the phrase "keeping up with the Joneses"?
Oh yeah.
That comes from the baby boomers.
AI calls it a micro-generation that falls between the baby boomers and Gen X, 54 to 65, grew up during a time of significant social and economic change, experiencing events like the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, Watergate scandal. Well, Marcus, question to you. Do you think it was effective? Do you think it's winning hearts and minds to see those boomers and Generation Jones out there protesting?
Well, there's not too many Generation Jones in there because we don't like stinking hippies.
I saw some posts on social media that were like, they took pictures of the No Kings rallies, and they're like, you can just imagine the smell.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a difference, boomers, and we think different too. And our kids are different too, Generation X. And but protesting these days, I think is out of date. It really doesn't do nothing.
I mean, it's
traffic and
the interrupting of traffic, that I think totally backfires. Well, the strategy that I think the planners have is that it shows that there's upheaval in the United States, that Donald Trump, at least by a certain element, is despised. And so maybe people need to rethink him. He's not bringing unity to our nation. I don't think he cares at all to bring unity. I don't think he's a president that cares at all about delivering that. He is about change. He's going to push this thing through. The libs can sit there and kick and scream as much as they want. It doesn't matter to him at all. And I think to a lot of people that agree with his policies, for instance, mass deportations, closing the border, tough on crime, to watch the protesters, these No King protesters out there trying to disrupt traffic, get arrested. I think a lot of people aren't going to make the distinctions between what happened earlier in the day and what happened in the evening. They're just going to see it all together and go, well, this thing just resulted in a little bit of anarchy. It's not going to change my opinion. Your thoughts, Marcus?
Well, Jeff, when they start burning the American flag and using different flags and beating up with the police officers, remember they had that protest downtown Denver. That goes some years back, and the SWAT team had to help them out. And but protesting these days, it's just garbage.
Yeah, if there's one thing we've learned, if you're going to protest and beat cops, wear a red hat, because then you get a pardon. Just saying.
Well, there you go.
If you don't wear a red hat, Kamala Harris will pay for your bail. All right, Marcus, great call.
Kamala comes from our generation, Jones.
Oh, does she? That's hilarious.
Yes, she does.
Way to wrap that up.
So
I love it, Marcus.
Way to close that one nicely, Marcus.
Tim comes too.
Thanks,
Marcus
Have
in Denver. Great call. His line will be open 303-696-1971. We'll continue with the phone calls, but now is time for News and Comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, News and Comment.
Good Monday morning. 61 and sunny, beautiful outside in Denver. Kind of partly cloudy. Expecting a high of 91 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, DJT meeting with Canada's Mark Carney today at the G7 summit. And 47 announced he's directing his administration to use every resource possible on mass deportation efforts. He mentioned increasing enforcement actions in LA, Chicago, New York, and other fine cities like Denver. He considers the core of the Democrat power center. Dozens of clowns facing charges after weekend No King's idiocy in Denver. 35 useful idiots arrested and one juvenile cited and released after protests Saturday night. Some buffoons were arrested after trying to push past police in several locations so they could walk onto I-25. FAFO. Some commies threw rocks and bottles at police, and they responded with smoke and pepper balls to disperse them. And when the sun went down, the criminal activity went up. The commie organizations got what they paid for, but then we probably paid for it in the end. A suspect is behind bars after a deadly shooting during the weekend protests in Salt Lake City. Police arrested 24-year-old Arturo Gamboa in connection with the shooting that killed a 39-year-old man. Shortly after the shots were fired, officers found Gamboa wounded and hiding with a rifle nearby. The suspect in the killing of a Minnesota lawmaker and her husband is set to appear in court this afternoon. Vance Bolter faces multiple charges after a 2-day manhunt, including 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. He's accused of killing Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband and shooting Senator John Hoffman and his wife. The DOJ is looking into possible federal charges after investigators say they potentially found a hit list with names of federal lawmakers. Israel says Iran has launched more than 300 missiles at the country and counting since Friday. The Israeli military says most of those were intercepted by air defense systems. Some 24 Israelis have been killed so far as Iranian missiles made it through those defenses. Newt on Stegall this morning.
Any truce which allows the mullahs to stay in charge will lead to a bigger war later because they will go back to secretly building nuclear weapons, and they are who they are. The Iranian people, over 80% of them hate the regime, would love to be free of the regime. And by the way, you don't have to talk about, I'm going to write about this today, you do not have to talk about using B-2 bombers to drop very large weapons on this one facility. What you want to do is replace the government with a new government which voluntarily dismantles the facility.
And while a lot of people were watching the military parade celebrating the Army's 250th birthday on Flag Day, very patriotic day, all the commie elites were at the, I should say, like the Clintons and Kamala Khans, they were at the wedding of Alex Soros. How perfect. Son of George Soros, and he was getting married to Uma Abedin, ex-wife of Anthony Weiner, by the way, in the Hamptons. Pelosi and Schumer were also there celebrating another commie couple. And I still can't, when I think about Anthony Weiner, I still cannot believe that happened. What a tool.
Did you ever watch the Netflix documentary on him?
I did not.
Okay, so there's a whole Netflix documentary that follows him when he's running for mayor and through the whole scandal. And you can watch Uma just disgust with this guy. Like, it's totally on her face. But she's married to him. They have kids together, I think. I think they have kids together.
I didn't know that.
So
wow.
Think of the mashup mess of this situation where George Soros, one of the most wealthy men in the world, his son marries Uma Abedin, or I think is her name. She's married and has kids with Anthony Weiner. That whole thing is mashed together.
Right.
And of course the Clintons and the Obamas are like, that's the wedding I'm going to go to.
Yes. And then I'm going to post on X like Hillary did, showing the comparisons between the military parade. I don't know if you saw this. She posted, you see, look at this. This is for the evil leader, Trump, with his own little parade. And this is where the true Americans are, showing the protests. And, of course, Mexican flags in the background. I'm like, what a genius. Yeah, that Wiener, man, that story, you cannot write that script.
No.
Better.
And then so he gets popped on the first element of that, and then kind of recovers a little bit and gets the campaign going, and he's in the lead, and then a whole second batch of girls that he has sent pictures of his private parts to pops out. Literally, and then it all crashes while they're filming a documentary. And Uma, who's like this uber political consultant, who's on Hillary Clinton's campaign, top aide, all that stuff, is just sitting there watching her own personal life devolve, and she's sitting there going, "What did I do choosing to marry this guy?" And then George Soros' son is like, "You know who I think would make a good daughter-in-law? That lady."
There you go. Exactly.
She clearly makes good choices. Works for Hillary Clinton, married Anthony Weiner.
Goodness. Oh, wow. So they do have little wieners walking around. I mean, they have kids, I think. All right. JJ Spawn wins the U.S. Open at 1 under. The NBA Finals continues tonight in Oklahoma City. The Rocks crush the Braves 10-1 the final. 58 in Westminster, 59 in Centennial, 61 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue on this Monday. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Your 710 5-day forecast here in Denver on this early Monday. Just a few clouds this morning. Temperatures right around 60 degrees by daybreak. Then for the rest of your Monday, mostly sunny skies. Pretty hot this afternoon, near 95. Your 710 5-day forecast here in Denver on this early Monday. Just a few clouds this morning. Temperatures right around 60 degrees by daybreak. Then for the rest of your Monday, mostly sunny skies. Pretty hot this afternoon, near 95. Partly cloudy tonight, lows down to 60. Tuesday, early sunshine with a slight chance for a late day shower or thunderstorm. Highs around 85, lows in the mid-50s. Weather sponsored by Colorado's Best
Welcome
Roofing.
to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go back to the phone lines. We're talking No Kings Rally. Marie, Denver. Good morning, Marie. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Thank you. I something really important happened on Saturday morning, but it has nothing to do with the boomers, which is what I called about. So I don't know whether I can switch topics.
I'll go. What'd you see Saturday?
I saw a press conference called by two Republicans, Gabe Evans and Lauren Boebert. And they had a statement that could have been written by Democrats, and I wish it had been, and the Democrats missed the whole thing. Trump kind of said on Friday, maybe we shouldn't be taking, hard workers that are needed for farm work, and maybe we should review what we're doing in terms of immigration. And the two of them said, and it was addressed to the head of ICE, and they said, you're supposed to be catching criminals, not farm workers. And they went on and on about it wasn't fair, that they were good people, they've been in the country for a long time, and they shouldn't be suddenly captured and detained. That wasn't what the whole thing was about. And it was so good. And it was Gabe Evans and Lauren Boebert, and their last sentence was just great. And they asked the head of ICE to give them a letter showing exactly how many criminals had been apprehended.
I missed that. Yeah, I hadn't seen that. I'll have to look it up. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, Marie.
Well, as I say, I wish the Democrats had done it, but they didn't.
Now,
but
Marie, got a question for you.
Yeah.
And now, I understand the idea of not going out there and arresting the criminals. Now, I have talked about this since before the election, and I have been saying that people that were either unaffiliated or on the left that felt that Donald Trump and his immigration enforcement was going to go after criminals were misunderstanding what he meant. And what I say by that is, at the core, Donald Trump and many inside of MAGA believe that if you crossed our border illegally, that's your crime. You don't have to commit anything else. And so for me, for people like Stephen Miller, when they go to the farms, when they go to the restaurants, and they arrest people that may have been in this country illegally for 20 years and have never crossed any other law, they've never done anything else illegal, that original sin of the illegal border crossing still makes them a criminal.
I understand that, and I disagree with it because he still has. Okay, but Trump himself, I don't know what he does.
He made a statement. He made a statement about it. So how do you think this is going to be?
Last night. No, it's pedal to the metal.
This was Friday night, and again, Gabe Evans, Lauren Boebert had a press conference, and that's they echoed what Trump had said. And their last statement, and Billy, I know you've been saying that, but you're not an elected representative.
No, thank God.
Gabe Evans and Lauren Boebert are the two people who held the press conference and said they have to stop. They have to focus on criminal.
Marie, do you think they are going to face any blowback by MAGA aficionados because of
What did you all talk about today? Did you mention that? No, you made fun.
No, not yet.
Well, I hope you do. But we've heard something that happened 10 years ago that is really kind of ugly and awful, and who wants to listen to it? But that's what your news consisted of. And I thought that was deliberate myself. Now, I think that what Trump did, but what Gabe Evans and Lauren Boebert, and I have to keep remembering those, they're not in my district, so I couldn't vote for them, except I think Evans is going to run for Senate, but that's neither here nor there. But that was gutsy, it was right, and to ask to know how, and by criminals, then that people who have been convicted of a crime other than just illegal, because there's a lot of conflict legally about saying if you cross the border, you're a criminal because you did that illegally and you don't have any rights, and that's the issue.
All right, Marie, we'll look into it. Appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Marie's line will be open, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Bill's going to look to find it. I've looked at both websites, X accounts. I can't see any place where Gabe Evans or Laura Boebert are breaking with the president on immigration issues. All right, let's go to Ron in Colorado Springs. Good morning, Ron. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hi, guys. You know, you asked Jeff if it changes anybody's mind, these demonstrations. I don't think anybody's mind is changed right away. But when you see that many people marching, even if you're a Trump supporter, you got to question yourself, well, maybe this many people can't all be wrong. But then the left probably says that about us. When I looked at some of those videos and paused them, I saw people, they had signs that referenced the student loan forgiveness. I saw them complaining about the Medicaid cuts, gay, every left-wing subject matter you could see in those. And it made me think of the phrase, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And the group that's getting them all together for the No Kings is bringing a lot of misguided, misinformed, uninformed socialists, i.e. communists, together. And so it looks quite impressive. And the numbers, I think the numbers that one guy said, 3 to 5 million, that's probably accurate. But in a country of, 360 million, it's a small group, but it looks pretty damn impressive on the TV.
Now, Ron, I think the smartest thing that the organizers for the No Kings rally is to cast that wide net. They didn't pick a specific issue. So just as you said, anybody that was angry over whatever their liberal issue is can show up and still be a part of this rally and feel like their voice is heard. And as Jeff has pointed out, it's cathartic. I think that was smart because that improves turnout. If they would have picked one specific issue, turnout goes down. But because you can make your sign about any issue and just be mad, that helps improve the numbers. And that's what they wanted. They wanted numbers. And I think one of the other smart things they did is not to do something in Washington, D.C. But we'll deal with that a little bit later when we talk about the military parade. But yeah, I think they were trying to get numbers as high as possible simply because they wanted everybody. Didn't matter what your liberal issue was, you were welcome.
Right, and it was a smart tactic. And, Trump has backed off of that, the immigration, giving some leadway to the farmers and the hotel industry and what have you. And they do need to kind of re-examine how many. I'm thinking if you contact somebody and he can prove he's been in the country over 5 years, i.e. I'm focusing on all those that snuck in under Biden.
Yeah.
Maybe register him, give him a green card, give him 6 months, and then tell him to leave. But don't take him into custody. Focus on the recent arrivals, but just my idea.
I see Trump as doubling down on the immigration stuff. So this was a post on Truth Social just last night. Our nation's ICE officers have shown incredible strength, determination, and courage as they facilitate a very important mission, the largest mass deportation operation of illegal aliens in history. Every day, the brave men and women of ICE are subjected to violence, harassment, and even threats from the radical Democrat politicians. But nothing will stop us from executing our mission and fulfilling our mandate to the American people. ICE officers are herewith ordered by notice of this Truth post to do all in their power to achieve this very important goal of delivering the single largest mass deportation in history.
Well, that's a little bit of conflict. You did not see him make the statement about re-examining, taking into custody people who've been here for a long period of time?
No, I'm not aware of it. What did he say?
I think we need to re-examine. We've got a lot of people being hurt. We've got people working on farms in California that have been there 20 years. And we need, his words was to re-examine who were taken into custody. And I think that was an accurate statement. We'll see how it develops. So
yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, I appreciate that, Ron. And yeah, he made that statement. I think it was like Friday or Saturday. Friday, I think it was. And I think that's what Marie was referencing earlier, although I can't find the press conference she was referencing because that one happened on Thursday, which was prior to the Trump statement that would have predicated the announcement about not going after the restaurant workers and the farmers. So we're still working on that one. But yeah, Trump had made that, but he's since walked that back a little bit because there was some blowback on that going, wait a minute, if we don't go after the farm workers and the restaurant workers, we're not going to get to the illegal immigration numbers, and, as we outlined with Marie, that many on MAGA believe the original sin is that illegal crossing of the border. Everything else is not necessarily consequential because that is the original law breaking that makes you a criminal. So then you can be deported. That's how they look through it. So, you know.
All right. Well, we'll continue. Phone lines are open. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. The original question, did the No Kings rally work? Did you see those people and go, goodness, I need to rethink. I need to get motivated. Donald Trump is too authoritarian. Or did you just shrug and go about your day going, there's a bunch of boomers standing on the street corners, and I like what Donald Trump's doing. I appreciate what he's doing for this country. He's strengthening it. I like the parade. America first. America's back. And you just shrugged and went about by your day. We'd love to hear from you.
And I've got a question on this one with 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Are we viewing this No Kings protest day incorrectly? Are we looking at it as, look at all these liberals that are out there expressing anger, when really this was a rally with an audience of one, only focused on one person? And did it work? And that one person being Donald Trump.
Right. He's going to go, goodness.
And did it work? And what I mean by that is, we'll talk about that when we get back, based on numbers of people that showed up. We talked about the numbers, and I do think that 5 million is probably too high. I would easily go half that. That's fine. But at the core, it's still more than what showed up in Washington, D.C. Now, do the numbers matter? No. But the numbers matter to Trump, and that may be significant. Is part of the reason that they did this, to make these large numbers, simply because when they looked at the balance sheet at the end of the day, they wanted a larger number than the activity Trump was doing, because at the end of the day, no. Based on how the protests went on, does that number matter? No. But you know that number matters deeply to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Is that really the goal?
No, I don't think so at all. And I think there's clear differences between having to get on an airplane, fly all the way to Washington, D.C. to be a part of a celebration versus going to Parker down the street and standing on a street corner. All right. Look, reliability isn't optional when business security is on the line. It's essential. Businesses trust alarm detection systems for the highest level of service and expertise. Think about the time you could save using one source for cameras, keycard access, fire and intrusion systems. ADS offers expert alarm installation and testing by highly trained technicians, 24/7 professional monitoring, same day or next day service upon request, because downtime isn't an option. Dedicated teams for cameras, access control, and fire alarms, and over 300 security professionals working for you. Choosing ADS means your business stays protected and will be ready to open tomorrow. They combine human monitoring with the latest AI camera technology to prevent crime in real time. Trusted by small and large businesses, including many Colorado schools, their security experts will review your system for free. Go to adsalarm.com to schedule your appointment today. adsalarm.com. Alarm detection systems, the first choice of Front Range and Colorado businesses. adsalarm.com. We'll continue with your phone calls and texts. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us now, Rory O'Neill. We're going to get back to the phone calls and discussions about No Kings in a second, but I want to get the latest update from Rory O'Neill, NBC News national correspondent, on the shootings that took place in Minnesota of the lawmakers. The man was caught overnight. People are now starting to analyze and look at motives. He joins us with the latest. Good morning, Rory. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. So the suspect in this case faces a court hearing this afternoon, 1:30 Eastern Time. He's facing multiple state charges, including 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder. Those charges could be upgraded once a grand jury meets. And he also faces the possibility of federal charges after he was taken into custody last night after nearly 48 hours of searching.
Terrible news. Update people on what this guy did and who he targeted, who his victims were.
Yeah, so according to the police, the suspect here in this case went to the home of a state senator early Saturday morning, shot and wounded the senator and his wife. I think they were shot 8 and 9 times, respectively. Both of them have undergone surgery and are hopefully on the road to recovery. After that shooting, he went to the home of the former House Speaker, Representative Melissa Hortman, shot and killed her husband, and then got in a shootout with police, but managed to flee the scene. And then he was captured, as I said, about 45 hours after that shooting, and he was arrested thanks to a tip from the public. They saw an image of him on a trail camera that had been set up, and then they alerted the police, who were able to move in, create a perimeter, close down on him using a helicopter and drones with infrared technology, got the guy to surrender without any shots being fired, and no officers were injured.
The suspected assassin's name, Vance Bolter. What do we know about him? Wall Street Journal reporting last night he was a pastor? What about this guy's background would lead him to want to do this?
Right. He's got everything in his background. Born again Christian at 17, a pastor by some, he was had a security company he was trying to launch, but he had no clients. On his LinkedIn page, he said he was trying to get back in the food industry. He used to work in food processing, spent, I think, 10 years as a manager at a 7-Eleven, but also had a home with a wife, but then also had a room closer to the city that he would rent with friends that since childhood. And those childhood friends said he had recently been working at a funeral home harvesting eyeballs for organ donation.
It's wild.
Yeah, a lot going on.
Yeah, seriously, and had kids as well. So we'll have to see as a motive emerges. And then you had a connection with Tim Walz. He was appointed by the governor to a certain board, a labor relations board or something.
Right, a workforce development board. Actually, he was appointed initially by Governor Dayton and then reappointed by Governor Walz. And I think the Walz spokesperson said that the governor doesn't think he ever met Belter, this 57-year-old suspect. So, I think there are 60 people or so on this workforce development board. I think that it was on the board with Representative Hortman as well. She was also a member of that.
So we'll continue to look at his motives and those relationships. What are you hearing from lawmakers in Minnesota? I imagine a lot of condemnations around political violence. It's heartbreaking for those of us that work in politics. This is like one of our worst nightmares. I mean, someone shows up middle of the night dressed as a police officer, shoots and kills spouses, family members, pets. It's just terrible.
Well, right. And the longer-term consequences, though, is that this scares people out of running themselves. I mean, you want good standing members of a community to, take these positions, to go run for office, and now if you're going down to the state representative level, but you want people to run for school board and to run for town council and city council, and you want them to run for the state house and, encourage more people to run. Otherwise, you sort of get this class that gets in there and never gets out. So you want to encourage people to run for these positions. And when you have a tax like this, that scares a lot of people away, saying, I don't want to put my family through this because I vote for or against an issue someone it gets enraged over. So it's troubling when this can happen to people who are just trying to serve in these, who are committed to public service.
Right, you're exactly right, and it hits and fearful on both sides of the aisle, and this should be regardless of what the motivation was. In any case, nobody wants to live in a country where some guy that you have no connection to gets angry, shows up at your front door, and kills your family members because they dislike your politics. We're seeing some evidence around maybe even pro-choice. He was angry about their pro-choice positions, which I find radically ironic. If you're pro-life, you believe in the sanctity of life, and then you're going to go take life. We'll have to wait for this all to flush out, but regardless of what it might be, go ahead, Rory.
I think you're trying to apply logic here, and
there's clearly not a lot with this guy. So, Rory, really appreciate your taking the time to join us to update us the latest on this heartbreaking case coming out of Minnesota.
Thanks, guys.
Like I said,
yeah, it's awful.
It does right, left. This should be condemned.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And especially, and some early indications right now that he may have been motivated on the pro-life side, which I find terrible, because if you believe in the sanctity of human life, so you're motivated to stop the killing of innocent human beings, which is what I'm passionately pro-life, and you're going to go out there and then take innocent human beings' lives.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. And like Rory said, you're trying to apply logic, and
I think,
and Bill, we talk about this. I mean, the guy that kicked me, I've never even met.
No idea.
So
nor had any interaction with him, no conversation with him. Just
and so these people exist out there that you'd have no interactions with, clearly motivated, and then they just take life. It's terrible.
Yeah, and I think that Roy had something very applicable to the conversation, that actions like this discourage the right people from running.
Right?
Yeah, because if you always say, why can't we have the good people running? Why can't we have better people? Well, my idea would be some of those better people are choosing not to run because of things like this.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily just mean someone showing up and shooting you. It's just the litany of verbal abuse, social media abuse. If you're going to run for a statewide elected position, not statewide, I'm saying like inside the state, something that is somewhat higher profile. So you want to be a representative, you want to be a state senator, you want to get there, even a member of a local school board, you have to have that conversation with your family. How many death threats do you think is too many? How are we going to approach this? Because at this point, you know for a fact those death threats are coming, regardless of political party. Both sides will do it when they're upset at you because they want to scare you. So that's one of the things right now. Think about that. When you're talking about someone that is considering getting into public life and serving the community, those average lawmakers that the founding fathers envisioned when they were setting up our nation are now being discouraged because other citizens want to threaten to kill them over a political disagreement. Nice job, guys. Nice job.
All right, join the conversation. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. We've got nearly jam-packed phone lines. We're going to get to you guys. Dominique, Thomas, stick around. You're up next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking the No Kings protest that took place on Saturday over the weekend. You probably saw them out and about. They were everywhere. Little groups, mostly boomers, standing on street corners, holding signs, hats, shuffling along, getting angry at Donald Trump and what he's doing to this country. Did it work? Do you think people are changing their minds? Or, as most people said that I talked to, just saying, we didn't see much honking. Probably a waste of their time, and I've got other stuff to do. Plus, I like what DJT's doing to this country. Mass deportations, limiting the government, all that stuff. Let's go to the phone lines. Dominique, Denver. Good morning, Dominique. You're on with Jeff and Bill. What'd you think of the No Kings protests?
Good morning. Well, let me start. I'm lived in Colorado my whole life, second generation. And I was down there trying to ask who these No Kings protest people are. Like, what are their stance? What are their allegiance to? And what I'm finding is there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of not enough information that they're basing their facts to protest on. And so what I started realizing is it's all the same questions we're asking them, right? Like, why do you think he's a king and he's doing mass deportations and all this nonsense? However, what I started realizing is if I switch up the questions a little bit, I said, hey, do you support SB 25-003? Do you support men in the women's restrooms? Do you support a sidewalk tax in Denver, or excuse me, in Colorado? They call them fees. Do you guys support these kind of things? A lot of what? What is that? Wait, what are you talking about? So then I start asking them, okay, so here in Colorado, this is what's happening with the Democratic Party. Also on the federal level, this is what's going on with the Democratic parties. This is where their allegiance is to. And they're kind of like in the middle, and as you talk to some of them, they start to understand a little bit. Okay, so I'm not for men in the women's restrooms, but I am for, 21 plus, having magazine-fed weapons, have to do all that crazy stuff that just passed. But my thing is why don't you know about this stuff if you're calling someone a king and someone is literally trying to take away our constitutional rights? The party that you're leading yourself to.
Dominique, I'm with you. They're very emotional. They are very emotional.
Be careful, my friend, about whether or not you get too far about who's taking away what constitutional rights. Because remember, we have a president right now who views that he can make an executive order that changes a constitutional right. So be careful about that bromide, yeah.
And exactly. Nobody should be touching our constitutional rights, not on either side of the parties. And so that's what I'm trying to, get to know these No King protest people are. And it all depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to a new generation who just moved to Colorado, it's all over the place. If you talk to someone who's a little bit elderly, who's been in Colorado for a long time, it's almost like they're not quite sure where to put their allegiance.
Now, I got a question for you, Dominic. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Some of what you've been outlining here and something that we've talked about on the show. I have the opinion that for a number of years now, we are not letting truth or facts determine our politics, but we are letting our politics determine our truth or facts. Do you agree, and is that what you're seeing at some of these protests and rallies?
Yes, and I'll add to that by saying what I repeat a lot to a lot of people that I have these conversations with. We have to stop letting our emotions dictate our decisions. We are voting on emotions. We are saying, oh, I want to vote for this person because, they're for this thing. But then you're like, okay, but what exactly are you voting for them for? Are you voting for them because you agree with their policies or because you like the car they drive? And well, because I think they're cool, and I think, it's a lot of emotional things. And I think that's one of the biggest things here in America that's happened, too, is emotionals are flying all over the place. We have to get back down to root things. What are the root causes of things? It's like blaming firearms for the problem. No, it's not the firearms. It's people. Right? We have to stop blaming objects and start blaming the subject again.
Dominique, great call. Sure, appreciate it. Dominique's line from Denver will be open, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Let's go to Ben Morrison. Good morning, Ben. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Good. Nice to hear
on
from
Saturday.
You. Yeah, you were down there?
And it was the people. It wasn't just boomers. There was 18-year-olds. I saw 30-year-olds with their kids. There was everybody out there, and there was tons of honking. There was a lot of people that were very, very, energetic and very excited about that entire rally. That was the vibe I got, and it wasn't just this little minuscule crowd either. There was probably 10,000 people-ish at the Denver one.
What brought you out, Ben? What was the issue that gets you most motivated?
Because I'm very sick of Donald Trump just skirting the law and doing this stuff, when he's ignoring judicial orders. The previous caller just said that we don't know what we're talking about. We do. Like Billy just said, he's trying to use executive orders to change the 14th Amendment. He's ignoring judicial orders that are passed by courts. He's, sending people away without habeas corpus, which in the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal and entitled to certain unalienable rights. So, we know what we're talking about. In general, liberals tend to have a little bit more education than most of the MAGA crowd. That's just a fact. It is. So we tend to know civics a little bit better.
All right, Ben, appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks,
Ben's
Ben.
line will be open, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Ben, an educated man who knows what he's talking about. Let's go to Chad in Denver. Good morning, Chad. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning, gentlemen. I wonder what those No Kings protesters thought about the Democratic primary they had this year. Just saying. You guys have a great day.
I love that. that right there was why we love the Jeff and Bill show. You get Ben coming across going, well, we're more educated. We know what we're talking about. Chad just flies right by and goes, oh, yeah, how was that Democrat primary? Oh, my gosh, you guys kill me. So much fun. Love the show. All right, Bill, let's see. We got some time. Let's go to Bert Inglewood. Good morning, Bert. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
So the only thing I have to say about all these protesters, the difference between them and me, I have a job to go to. Find something to do. Nobody cares.
I mean, Bert, to your point, I don't know your politics. Maybe you're conservative or not. Conservatives don't really protest. I mean, the one thing we do show up for is the March for Life. It's great, but there was one little rally Lauren Boebert did down at the state capitol, but for the most part, we were out there for 1312, so there was some stuff that got us out, but it's like every weekend for the Democrats.
I know, and it gets ridiculous because I work in that downtown area, and Saturday was just a mess. Trying to get around that area down there. And it's like, come on, guys.
Now, Bert,
I'm trying to work.
I got a question. Now, I understand the idea, and I think that's critique that I have for the protest, that when they disrupt, I mean, again, the protests are supposed to make you uncomfortable, but when they start interfering with your ability to do your job or get to your job, they cross a line. That's why you had sit-ins that made it difficult to navigate through offices and things like that. I don't like when they're blocking roads and of that nature. And when we're talking about these protests, what do we do with the idea of the protest and the march that was going on every weekend in Boulder that was supporting Israel and was asking for the release of the hostages, where that crazy guy shows up and tries to burn some people alive? If we're mad about the liberals showing up every week to protest, do we put those people that showed up in Boulder every week and marched down and read the names of the hostages down at the down at the city hall steps in Boulder, are they in that same group? Are these silly people that show up every week that just keep protesting the same thing? What do we think about that? Bert, what do you think?
Well, my understanding to all that is that they were doing it peacefully up there, and they weren't blocking any roads. I don't remember hearing anything about them blocking roads.
Oh no, but the point that I was making is the idea of the protesting every weekend or every day. The regular idea. They have a regular protest, and again, they did it right. I'm critiquing the people that block the roads. That's correct.
I see it differently because the people that they're holding vigil almost for hostages. So it's not I disagree with the guy's politics and I'm showing up regularly. It's almost like a remembrance of those that are still in captivity held by Hamas. That's how I see it. But Bert, great call. Appreciate it. We'll continue. Joe, you'll be up next. Man, the phone lines are hot. Join the conversation. Did No Kings work? Did it inspire you to maybe question Donald Trump, or are you just, shrugging and moving on, had other things to do with your day? We'll continue the conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader. We are 710 KNUS.